What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Colin. My name is Colin Egglesfield. Here's my coffee. Actually, this is a new thing. It's called mushroom coffee. This is from a company called Mudwater, and it's a coffee alternative. I would highly recommend you checking it out. You can Google it, Mudwater. It's like healthy coffee. It's great stuff, and supposedly really good for your digestive system. But that's not why we are here tonight. Why we are here tonight is because, as I love to do every week, I love to bring on people who are doing incredible things, who are successful in their field, so that they can share with us what they did and the challenges that they've overcome to accomplish their dreams and their goals. And tonight I have a special guest, because tonight I have someone who I actually work with. This guy is incredibly inspiring because this guy has completely dedicated his life to helping people buy and sell homes. He's from Chicago, grew up here, homegrown, and I would consider him one of my mentors. He's taught me a lot over the past few years. I am with Century 21 Brokerage. In between my acting and everything else that I do, I also do some real estate. And I got into doing real estate about 6 years ago. And I took a class on how to rehab homes. It's one of these courses that you can find on Facebook or whatever. And we're going to get into this tonight because there's a lot of pitfalls that novice home rehabbers can get into. And this is some of the stuff that we're going to be getting into tonight. But what we are going to be chatting mostly about tonight are some tips and insights on how to buy and sell homes. And my guest tonight is my senior partner at Century 21. And I got my broker's license about 3 years ago to be able to transact my own properties that I was flipping. And through this whole process, I started to meet other people who were asking me if I'd be interested in listing their homes for them or helping them buy houses. And over this whole experience, I've started to learn a ton about the real estate market that I'd love to share with you tonight. And with us tonight, I have someone who is incredibly knowledgeable about the real estate market. He is one of the top producing real estate agents in all of Chicago. And he's incredibly inspiring because not only does he do real estate, he is super active in the community. And in the last chapter of my book, Agile Artist, I write all about community and how we can get more involved in our communities to make a positive difference. And here in Chicago, there's so many opportunities to do that. And Armando is doing just that. He is the president of the Chamber of Commerce here in Chicago, the West Central Chamber of Commerce. He's also the president of the Chicago Children's Theater. So I'm excited to chat with him a little bit more about that. But he's also super active with just helping so many people buy and sell their homes and finding their dream homes and helping people fulfill on all of their real estate needs. So without further ado, we'd love to bring to the stage Mr. Armando Chacon, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, Armando?
I'm doing great, Colin. It's a pleasure to be on with you. Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's about time. You're so busy. I've been like trying to get you on here, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm like busy doing real estate. So finally, you're on here.
Preaching to the choir. You're a busy guy yourself, and it's been fun just to get a little insight as to all the things that you have going on. It's fun. It's contagious, and I just love your energy. So I just think it's one of the reasons why I think it's been such a great partnership.
Yeah, I agree. And
so
yeah, well, I'm glad you're here. And with everything that I have been doing, a lot of what I've read about partnerships and creating efficiency and effectiveness in businesses and as an entrepreneur, as real estate agents. Essentially, we are entrepreneurs. A lot of real estate is you are essentially running your own business. You're having to market, you're having to generate leads, you're having to service clients, do follow-up. There's a lot of entrepreneurship that we bring into doing real estate. And a lot of what I like to read about is how to become a better entrepreneur, how to become a better leader, better manager of teams. And a lot of what I've read about is that the more diverse that you have your team or the people that you work with, the stronger your team can be, because each person can bring something different to the table. And I've learned a ton from you over the past couple of years that we've been working together so far. And as someone who comes from Hollywood and I bring sort of the social media experience to to what we do together. What I've learned from you is essentially the transacting side of real estate. So I've got a bunch of people on here, and for my audience out there, would love for you guys to type in any questions that you may have for me and Armando with regards to buying and selling your home, investing in real estate. It's a super competitive market out there right now. So a lot of people are finding themselves in multiple offer situations. There's low inventory out there, so it makes it difficult in a lot of areas for people to actually to purchase homes. I've heard of clients from other agent friends of mine saying that in the suburbs it's a lot more competitive. Here in Chicago, it's still competitive, but out in the suburbs, we're seeing 20 offer situations, and there's just not a whole lot of inventory out there. So if you have any questions, feel free to write in, and we will try to get to as many questions that we have. And Armando, first off, I would like to just ask, how did you get into real estate? Was it something that you were passionate about from an early age, or is it something that you just kind of found yourself into later on in life?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, with as far as I just want to speak to your earlier point about entrepreneurship. And as agents, it's really, it's what we are, and it's one of the reasons why so many agents, I think, don't make it, and that's not really mentioned too much, is that they really come in with the wrong mindset. I often joke I went from a cushy job, nice salary, benefits, to a zero salary, no benefit situation. Sounds great, right? But that's really what it is. And it's not easy. It's not for everybody because it's not natural. We're all raised and told, hey, go to school, get good grades, go to college, and get a corporate job, which is exactly what I did. But there was something missing there for me. I had no idea it would be real estate that would give me that. And the way, again, I had no intention of getting into real estate. Went to college, got an accounting degree, worked for Jones Lang LaSalle, and I thought things were going, pretty well. And then they asked me to get my real estate license. And I wondered, why the heck do you guys want me to get my real estate license? I had no interest in it, but they thought it was good. It would look good on paper, maybe with our future clients. So I did, and that's what sort of started, sparked my interest. So much so that when I left there, I decided I'm going to get into real estate. And I did that, and shortly thereafter, literally like a couple of weeks, another commercial real estate firm in the Loop here in downtown asked me to be their CFO, and it's like, well, okay, I had, I think, a kid at that time, so I said, sure, I'll do both, and built my business sort of on a part-time basis. Little did I know that I would become as a part-time agent when actually our company's top agent. And then slowly but surely, I thought, maybe I should do this. But more than anything, for me, it was like I had finally found something that I was passionate about. And that has really been my compass ever since. Before I joined Jones Lang LaSalle, I had what I consider the worst job that I've ever had in my career. Fortunately, I was only there 6 months.
What was that?
And I told myself, I worked for a publisher. And I told myself that I will never have a job or work somewhere where I didn't enjoy it. And I've stayed very, very true to that.
What was that job, though? It was for a publisher? Like, what were you doing?
I was at a publisher. I was an accountant. I definitely want to throw my boss under the bus, but let's just say that it just was not a good situation for me. I hated, and the job was up in Evanston, which is a beautiful area. It's where Northwestern is. I mean, but I just hated the drive. I didn't like my boss. I didn't like the job. And I made a commitment to myself. I will never have a job that I don't enjoy ever again. And I can honestly say that's been true. And that, again, that's become a big part of, that's what's driven me, even with the organizations that I participate in and lead. These are organizations that I'm passionate about, like the arts, for example, Chicago Children's Theater, and my neighborhood here on the near west side of Chicago in the West Loop, schools, parks. Those are all passions of mine, and this city is I consider it a passion and something I'm really proud about. So, but yeah, no, definitely was not the plan. My dad was an entrepreneur as well, so it was somewhat in the blood. But again, no, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be in real estate.
And so for some people who are out there who are thinking about getting into real estate, you started out doing this kind of part-time, so you had the security of income coming in. And this is what I think is some good advice to give to some people. Know that when you first start becoming a real estate broker, that there's going to be a lag time between when you first start and you start learning how to actually, first of all, it takes, a few weeks to a few months to get your license. And then after that, it's all about learning the best practices for marketing and learning your CRMs and how to do that, learning how the MLS works. So would you say it's fair that if you want to get into real estate, give yourself a good 6-month cushion where you're not depending on any income coming in?
Absolutely, and I'm sensitive to that stress. Like, oh my gosh, I'm spending money, and I don't have any money coming in. That's real. I don't minimize that whatsoever. So yeah, if you can be in a position where you could, carry that for a while, certainly would recommend that. I sometimes think, should I have gotten in, would it have been better for me to get in as a 21, 22-year-old where I didn't have the obligations of a mortgage and kids and all that. And to I'm talking more and more to college kids and saying, hey, this is a path. I know that you went to school for this, but you could do this and you can get in early. And man, you could even like live with your parents while you build your business. And that's something to think about. However, I am a big believer in motivation. And for me, my motivation was, okay, wow, I got a mortgage. Okay, I got a couple kids, and my wife is at home, doesn't work. That was motivation, and did I need it? What I've done as well, I don't know, but at that time, it's part of what drove me. I wanted to, take care of my family, and yes, I mean, I certainly wanted to do well. Very, very fortunate that this business has given me so much and given me a life that I never thought I could have, especially knowing my background, which we may or may not get into. But I feel very, very blessed, and I try to give back as much as I can in a variety of ways, in business, with my colleagues, even agents that don't work for me, because frankly, I've been very fortunate being I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce, is I've had access to many, many other very uberly successful people that I learn from all the time. So anyhow, I enjoy doing all of that. But yeah, going back to your original question, yeah, I mean, it's like starting a business. And if you pick any other industry, you want to start a restaurant, you're spending tens of thousands of dollars, a hair salon, thousands of dollars and more schooling than what we have to pay. So all in all, I mean, you could get into this industry, this business, with relatively, really a low amount of money. Again, you just got to know that it's going to be tough and competitive, and the odds are against you. So when I talk to new agents in a group, I said most of you will fail. You will not make it in this business. But oftentimes it's just because they don't come in with the right mindset, the right energy. They don't have the drive. They're sleeping in, or they're not doing what they need to do. They're not talking to the people that they should be talking to, and that's just really the way. That's really the way it is. Nobody's calling to say, hey, get to work or go to the office and do what you need to do. I mean, it's a little bit like college. You go from high school where your parents are telling you got to get up and go to school, to college where, hey, college is like,
up to you. Yeah.
You're not getting a degree,
Yeah.
So it is very much like that.
Yeah. Well, what I love about you is that whenever I see you, you're always reminding me of like, Colin, you could be blowing up your business. You could be this. you're always reminding me of what I'm capable of doing. So it always keeps me focused on what my real estate goals are, what my dreams are. And I can see why you're so successful. I mean, I see all the awards that you have in the background there. Can you pivot your chair so we can see all the awards you've won? So one day I want to grow up like you, Armando, and have all these awards, whether it's an Oscar or some real estate awards. But I'm sure you didn't get into
You're
this
too modest, Colin. I
to
mean, I
win
appreciate
awards.
that.
But for our viewers out there who are interested, I'd like to get into offering some tips for people who are looking to buy. Anyone who's out there looking to buy real estate, whether that's buying their home, buying Airbnb. I saw someone asking about Airbnb properties, which are super popular right now. Let's go over some tips and insights, some strategies, some best practices that you like to tell your clients for when they are starting to look to purchase.
Sure. I mean, when I work with buyers, I take, quite a bit of time to, get to know them and their situation. Because I strongly believe that your home should complement your life and your lifestyle. Not just, where you are now, but where you want to be. So I spend a lot of time in really getting to know them. And frankly, that's one of the things that I actually really enjoy about this business is I'm dealing with real people. Oftentimes I'm in people's living room. Obviously, recently it's been more, on Zoom, which has been, okay. But I just love getting to know people's story. I mean, I often will ask, where did you grow up, and what do you do, and how did you meet, and I'm genuinely interested in those kinds of things. Like, it's not small talk for me. I'm genuinely interested in that. So I want to get a really good understanding of who they are and what their situation is. So I'll typically try to, or want to arrange a time, like a formal time, book a time to really understand what's going on with them and where they want to be. But one of the first things that that I'll want to know is just know their time horizon, and what I mean by that is, are you going to be in a home, are you looking for something that you're going to be in for a few years? In other words, are you, a consultant, and are you having to relocate every couple of years, or, things like that? Or are you single now, but, are you thinking, okay, you're serious with your girlfriend, do you think you want to get married, or live together, or you want to have kids? How many kids do you have? Are you an empty nester? Those kinds of things. And because you really do want to think about that. It's a 3-year, 5-year home, or like a 20-year home, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just thought came into my head. Have you ever come into a situation where it's a boyfriend and a girlfriend situation who are wanting to buy a piece of property, and what do you advise them in terms of who goes on the title? Because that can be a very tricky situation when two people who are not married are untitled for the property. Do you ever find yourself in that sort of situation?
I mean, I have. What I have found is, definitely it'll go in either one of their names. It's not difficult to once. I mean, in Illinois, once you're married, it's pretty much joint. So it hasn't been too much of an issue. I don't know how it would be in other states, but in Illinois, my understanding is that that's the way it works. So I haven't had to have too much discussions on that, to be honest. But to be honest, I think I've had more situations where married couples bought a property and then got divorced. That's been actually surprisingly a little bit more common. Not surprisingly, knowing just the numbers of, I mean, I think it's like 50-50. So anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah. Just curious. And then as far as the market being as tight as it is right now with low inventory, we're not seeing it, like I said before, in the suburbs here in Chicago, it's a lot more competitive. Here downtown in the city, obviously the inventory is lower than it has been in a while. What do you, how are you advising your clients as far as multiple offer situations or?
Sure. Well, I mean, on the buy side, I think you have to be very, very aware of what's going on in that local market. So, I mean, if you're going to a single family home in the city or in several suburbs, I mean, you're going to have to be very, very aware that it's competitive out there, and you have to be ready to have strategies and know how to sort of what I call win the day. So you have to be aware of that. Now, it has been very competitive. Was very competitive last year in some of these markets. I've won some, and frankly, I lost some. And the good news for buyers in 2022 is that I think that the market will still be competitive, but not as competitive. So there's likely to be less multiple offer situations. I think a lot of folks that wanted to move that were driven by COVID, I think many of them, most of that demand has been absorbed, but there's still more coming. So I think you have to just be aware. Now, if you're going into, for example, the condo market in some neighborhoods, you could probably be a little bit more at ease knowing, it won't be as competitive, although, that might change to some degree and improve for the condo market if we finally get to the point where people really are coming back, to the office. I mean, the Loop is the downtown area, not just in Chicago, I think, but in New York, where there's been massive, people have left New York City in large numbers. I think the people working at home has really kind of driven that. And I think if that truly changes, because at one point we heard that the second quarter, companies would be requiring their employees to come back. No, we'll push it back to third quarter. Then fourth quarter. Now it's, it seems to me that companies are a little reluctant just to sort of pick a day, but hopefully once we get past this most recent increase in cases and things start to normalize, hopefully, that could really impact the condo market. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just really kind of knowing where where you have leverage and where you don't have leverage. And if you're going to the suburbs, for example, it'll still be kind of tough, but not as tough.
And when you have been in multiple offer situations with your clients, there's something called an escalation clause where you can tell the seller that you are willing to increase your bid or just automatically increase your bid up to a certain number. Are you finding yourself in those types of situations more often now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you know, Colin, I mean, one of the properties that you and I co-listed, we had, I can't even remember, nine offers. I think you were there like all day showing.
Yeah, within 2 days.
Sorry about that. But, in that particular case, I think we had like dueling offers with escalation clauses, which became really complicated. I had to put it all on a dry erase board and just try to make sense of it all. But yeah, I mean, if you're representing the buyer, that is a way to really get aggressive and win. Basically, when you have to pick your sort of baseline price, and then you have to pick an escalation amount. Let's say 1,000 or 2,000, could be more, 5,000. Where you would offer more than the highest offer, competing offer, and then you pick a max. So if there's another offer beyond that certain max, then you're on the outside looking in. So there's so that is one strategy. But the caveat there is you do have some agents, sellers, that are really sort of leery about that. So they might say, well, what is this escalation clause? What kind of game is this? They just don't know that these are actually fairly common. So what I recommended to, agents on my team and my company and myself is just to ask the agent, like, hey, this doesn't put us in a worse position. Because it just might be a little too much for a seller. Like, hey, just give me your best offer. There's two other offers. So, but yeah, I mean, these escalation clauses, use them to your advantage, but, just also be aware that they might be a turnoff.
And is that in the purchase and sale agreement, or is that in the addendum?
Well, it's a separate rider. Here in Chicago, it's rider 24, where it's fairly straightforward. But it's a really, really tough thing. I think let's face it, our clients, this is not what they do. This is what we do.
Yep.
So, we have to take the right amount of time to really explain it to them. But ultimately, it is our client's decision whether to view an escalation clause, what that baseline price should be, what the escalation amount is, and prepare that they may actually get the property. And I say that because sometimes like what gulp, like, oh, we got it, like, oh, holy crap, am I overpaying? It's like, wait a minute, like, so these are it's a complex thing. There's a lot of emotion involved. We have to be there to just advise and guide our clients. Our job is to get them the property that suits them and their family. And it's not straightforward. It's not easy. And it's different with every client. And frankly, that's a large part of what I like about what we do.
Yeah. And if you truly, truly, truly love a property and you want it bad enough, I try to assess how badly my clients really want the property. And if they truly want it that bad, I obviously ask them how high they're willing to pay for the property. And the trick is, like you were saying, you don't want to have your client get into a property where then if for whatever reason 5 years down the road they're going to go to sell, let them know that if you're going to be paying this amount of money, you may take a hit on the sale of the property if you're going to be overpaying for the home that you're making the offer on. But I also say if you want it bad enough, then writing a letter to the seller that tells the seller why you love the property. And that is something that I just from what I read about real estate, that definitely makes a difference. Have you advised your clients to write those kinds of personalized letters if there's a multiple offer situation, and that?
I think with an offer, there's the hard data stuff, the price, closing date, and all that. The letter is sort of an intangible. For me, I think that shows motivation, and as a seller, you want to go with somebody that truly really does want the property, because then it's kind of the unofficial glue to the transaction. Because let's face it, it's fairly easy to terminate a real estate contract. Certainly after you get past the attorney review period, that solidifies it more. But even then, someone could find potentially a way through other contingencies and so forth. But I think if you have somebody that's taken the time to write a letter, certainly as a listing agent, which is 75% of my transactions, that's certainly something will be something that I will share and appreciate with my sellers.
So Nicole Weston says Oregon has just outlawed love letters for properties.
Yeah, I was talking with an agent last week, and she said that she was seeing that, like where that they want to keep it fair, so that she was told that the listing agent said we're not taking any love letters, I guess. That's interesting, though.
Yeah. One of the questions here is from Nadine. Is it best to have your house assessed or appraised before putting it on the market? My answer to that is if you're with the right real estate agent, that is their job. That's the job of the real estate agent, to do the comparative market analysis, to find out specifically, to know the neighborhood, to know the properties, to know the specific properties that have sold and the difference between the sold properties what the level of upgrade that the properties that have sold compared to your current property, because obviously what you're seeing on the market, if it's rehabbed like the properties that I sell, you're not going to get as much for a recently upgraded property that if your home hasn't been upgraded in 20 years. But that's the job of the real estate agent.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. So to answer that question, I don't think it's necessary, especially if you're working with an experienced agent. You know, the fact of the matter is, I don't believe that an appraiser is going to know more about value in the areas that I work in than I am. You know, they're going to spend 10 minutes, in the house, and they're going to use some of the same comps, and I just I don't think it's necessary, especially in a market that's changing. Because they're going to go off of historical data. They may not adjust for the market the way they should. I do have a client for a property. Actually, I'm probably listening tomorrow. Overly successful guy. He is done. He's in the car business, multiple dealerships. I think he's got his own personal collection of like 80 cars or something like that. I love this guy. He just wanted to get an appraisal, and I'm not going to argue with him. He got the appraisal done, and it pretty much what I thought it should be. There was no surprises there. I wouldn't say that I'm going to try too aggressively to talk somebody out of it. I would just say it's probably not necessary.
And as far as when it comes to putting down payments, we were talking about this earlier. There's a lot of traditional mortgage companies, like you'll see that the bigger banks like Chase and Guaranteed Rate, Quicken Loans. Typical home purchase is around 20% down payment, depending on your credit. And there's a lot of programs out there that a lot of people aren't aware of. FHA, veterans, where veterans can put down as little as 3%, FHA 3% to get into a house. And there's a lot of organizations here in Chicago, specifically like neighborhood housing services, that will help with down payment assistance. And what a lot of people don't realize is that they can actually own a home for their mortgage, insurance, taxes would actually be less than what they would be paying in rent. And a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of that. Do you advise any of your clients on what they're able to put down and assess, or work with new home buyers? And do you find yourself educating new home buyers on down payment and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, financing is very, very important. The lax standards several years back is the reason why we got in trouble in '08 and '09. So they really just kind of really responded to that and got more conservative and raised the lending standards, which actually is the reason why we have such a good foundation, and the mortgage credit out there is has been so good. And one of the reasons we don't have a high increase we haven't had foreclosures. It's not been a problem of late. So you have, unfortunately, that means some people are on the outside looking in. So the average down payment has gone up, which again, there's definitely some positive aspects to that. However, it may surprise people, but there are programs out there, and many people can get loans for less than 20%, 10%. I've seen 5%. There's, for example, a doctor's program that's geared towards doctors that make a lot of money, but because of their student loans and they don't have a lot of down payment. So, but they're obviously a high credit worthy individual because of their income. So I think I've seen them buy expensive homes, actually luxury homes, for something like 3 or 5%. Now, there's some other programs out there. Obviously, there's FHA, which I don't deal with too much, candidly, but certainly for VA, for our veterans, which is our folks that I'm have a special place in my heart. There's a VA, and it's important to just have a good understanding of how a VA loan works, which is different than than a conventional loan. For example, if you're buying a condo with the VA program, you're gonna have to make sure that condo building is VA approved. Uh, Oftentimes, I find that many are not, but you can either get the building approved, which sets the table for future buyers, for future veterans in that building, or you can get what we call a spot approval. So it's just kind of like a one-time approval just to get that VA loan approved for this specific buyer. And again, there's some other programs out there. So it's always good to talk with a lender before you even go look at a home, just to kind of know what your options are. I mean, you might be pleasantly surprised when you think about what's happened to rents. I mean, rebounded in a big way after a dip due to COVID. Rents were up almost 12% on average in Chicago. I think it might be more in on the coast. And there's obviously affordability issues with that. But now now it might be cheaper to buy a property, even though prices have gone up a little bit, just not as much, believe it or not, as rents have. So I would just say, suggest to talk with your lender, maybe get a couple options. I talk to maybe 3 lenders. Make sure you don't start running your credit, all over town. You don't want that. But if you can pick, maybe 2 lenders that are trustworthy, that are recommended either by, a broker or a friend that has worked with them, explore your options. Know what, there's a 15-year loan, there's 30 years, there's different programs out there. There's a 7-year ARM, a 5-year ARM. Again, you should really be thinking about your time horizons with this too. I mean, if you plan to be here for 5 years, 10 years, these are all factors that buyers should be considering.
Elizabeth Krause is asking, do you recommend homeowners do an inspection prior to listing so that they know what issues might come up or not?
That's a good question. I mean, it's going to cost potentially a few $100s.
$200 to $400.
Yeah, I mean, it's also not typical, but if that, it might be helpful for you, certainly, especially if it's an older home. If it's a newer home, there's maybe a little less value there, but if it's an older home, it might be worthwhile doing. I mean, one of the nicest gadgets that I think inspectors have is that infrared camera where they're able to see moisture behind the walls and the ceilings and things of that nature. That always gets my heart going when I'm at an inspection and that thing comes out. Oh God. So I mean, as a listing agent, I think I would appreciate that, but
I mean, it's going to come up
see that
anyway.
as being very proactive, and if a few $100s is something that you're comfortable spending, it might be money well spent. But it is not typical.
Yeah,
I mean, probably 9 out of 10, maybe 9.5 out of 10 of my sellers, don't do that. I will say that I kind of perform the visual inspection of the property and have an eye for catching things that might be an issue. But I will just say, my clientele, the properties that I sell, I have not seen that to be a major issue.
Yeah. And I mean, it's going to come up anyway in the inspection eventually down the road, and you can address it then where either you can have it corrected or you can offer a price reduction or a credit.
Sure.
So,
and what I find is that, my clients tend to know their home. They'll say, that thing has never worked.
Yeah.
That
had a leak in the garage.
Just haven't fixed it. Okay, well, you should fix it. You know.
Yeah. How many? What percentage of your clients would you say are real estate investors who own rental properties, who do flipping?
I mean, I mean, I work with developers, so there's that. It's not the majority of my clientele.
Mhm.
I mean, my guess is about 15%.
Would you say the rehabbers that you work with are got a little screw loose because after doing it for the past 6 years, you've got to have a little bit of like, I mean, you've got
They're
to have
characters. I
huge
will say that.
capacity for learning how to manage people, and that's something that to be honest, just was not prepared for when I got into it, because the courses that I took, they made it sound like, oh yeah, just what you see on TV. You just go in, you buy a house, and you rehab it, and everything is going to be great, and you're going to be sitting on a pile of money at the end of it. And that is the furthest thing from the reality of the situation. And it has been, I've essentially feel like I've gotten my master's degree in home rehabbing over the past 6 years, and some lessons I've had to learn the hard way. But do you find yourself working with clients who, I mean, I know some of your clients are developers. I've shown some of your particular listings, and I mean, the ones that do it well can make a lot of money, and there's a lot of money to be made in real estate. But you absolutely have to know it takes good relationships with contractors. You've really got to surround yourself with people who know what they're doing. And so I would direct the advice that I always give people who come to me and say, hey, Colin, I'm thinking about, I hear you can make money in real estate. And I always say, just make sure that you surround yourself with the people who have been doing it for a long time, so that you essentially you're not jumping into something before you really know what you're doing. And contractor. It is so important to find good quality guys or gals who you can trust.
Well, my dad always said experience is the best teacher, and
Mhm.
we saw that, firsthand. Um, yeah, I mean, with rehab properties, there's such an element of the unknown, especially in
Mhm.
Chicago, depending on, what the property is. I mean, is the soil good? Is there any settlement issues? It's, I think you just have to be, conservative in your projections. And these contractors, I think, some of them have gotten hurt too. So they're being conservative. I mean, it's really easy to talk yourself out of buying a property just because I think everybody's just scared. Um,
Mhm.
and sometimes a project will surprise you to the good. Sometimes, it's the other way around, but you learn from that experience, and on the next one, you're a little smarter about it. Just from experience.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's that's why, and I've done some rehab projects. That's why sometimes I prefer new construction, because starting with a blank slate, I know what I'm
Mhm.
building. Everything's drawn. There's no surprises. Well, there may be some along the way, but not to the degree that there tend to be with buying an older property, and especially if you're talking about changing floor plans. For example, if you're buying like a two flat, kind
Mhm.
of that typical two flat layout, which, a super small kitchen, a big dining room, which we really kind of don't need, and then decent sized living room, small bedrooms where now, of course, we want a big kitchen. So you end up having to move walls, and there's some structural issues there sometimes when you do that. And then you remove a wall, like, oh crap, there is this stack running through here. What? Okay, well, that's going to cost you another 5 grand, and
It
I think
adds up
yeah, I mean, for
so
sure.
quick, so quick.
It's
So,
risky. I mean, and there's an element of risk in a lot of things that we do in our business,
Mhm.
for us and for our clients. So, um, and that's being an entrepreneur. I mean, it's being an
Mhm.
entrepreneur is usually risky.
Yeah.
But you have to accept that you may make a couple bad moves along the way.
Mhm.
Hopefully they don't drown you too much, and you move on, and you learn from that experience.
Yep. So whenever anyone asks, how do I find a good contractor? And it says here, Elizabeth is asking, Elizabeth Kraus again. Good questions, Elizabeth. How do you find a good contractor that you can trust? I like to use referrals, and I would highly advise wherever you are at, if you're interested in getting into real estate investing or doing any work, I would call your local real estate investment group. I'm a part of one here. And in this community, such as a real estate investment group, there are a lot of contractors in these groups. And because it's an insular group where if these contractors want to continue getting work in the group, it's all referral and it's word of mouth. And if the contractor is not good, obviously they're not going to keep getting work. You want to make sure that they're licensed and bonded. You got to know that if anyone comes onto your property, the contractor and the subcontractors need to be bonded and insured, because anyone who climbs up on your roof, falls off your roof, you can be liable and be sued for them, anyone on your property who potentially may get injured on your property. So those are the things you want to look out for. And Angie's List is, I've never actually used Angie's List, but if you're looking for any recommendations, any contractors, it's kind of like the Yelp of the rehabbing or contractor world out there. So I would say that's a decent resource. But I would also recommend that you get some recommendations for when you do find a contractor. Ask to see some of the work that they've done. Go see some of talk to some of the clients that they've worked with in the past. And then just make sure when you write the contract up with the contractor that there are stipulations in there that if there's anything that needs to be done outside of the scope of work that they give you, that they need your written signature in order to add or subtract from whatever is in writing in that agreement. So it's not just, all right, I'm going to rehab your home. It is literally breaking each section of the house down. How much is your HVAC budget? What is your plumbing budget? How much is it going to cost to redo the roof? And so that each and every single line item is accounted for, because things can run away very quickly if you don't keep these guys accountable.
Yeah, somebody just posted, just commented that it's now, they go by Angie's now, which is true.
Oh, just Angie's?
So,
is that
yeah.
what it is? Okay. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, because we touched on this a little bit earlier, you obviously run a team. You're a partner at Century 21 SGR here in the city. As far as being a team leader, being an entrepreneur, what are some insights or what's some advice that you may offer to other team leaders out there, CEOs, managerial people in those types of positions? And where have you learned how to become the leader that you are?
Yeah, great question. I think I've just surrounded myself with other exceptional leaders. I'm a student of highly successful people. So that's been really helpful, for me. I mean, just, like a guy like Tim Grover, for example. Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's, trainer. Went on to become, trainer to, you name an NBA star. He's become a motivational speaker. And, he was somebody that I had the chance, very fortunate to be able to serve him with several transactions. So just I learned from him. Another guy that was a former CEO of Boeing, one of the most humble guys. I think he was the highest paid CEO in Illinois at one point. Yet, I don't know if I've ever met such a humble man. Just a guy from Iowa, and I learned so much from him. In real estate, Jim Lynch has been that for me. He was a mentor early on, and then even a guy like Harry Huzanis, who started one of our competitor companies. he's somebody that I have access to all the time. He's become a personal friend. He's kind of like the dad I never had. So, and I can go on and on and on. And I think for me is as a leader, you have to put others before you. And that's what I try to do for our team members, for our agents in the firm is, I really have embraced that mindset. I feel it's a duty, to my team members as a community leader. Certainly, I look out for and try to help others, and I think that's my calling. That's what I have a passion to do. I enjoy serving people. I enjoy helping people. It gives me personal satisfaction. It's become a big part of who I am and who I strive to be. And that's simply, to help others. And, I enjoy it. So that's what I would say is, make others come before you. You help anybody that needs the help. I get satisfaction watching them succeed, just as I've enjoyed watching you succeed, Colin. And I'm grateful that we've somehow our worlds came together. And I enjoyed seeing you grow on the real estate side. Obviously, I know you've done exceptional things in Hollywood and modeling and God knows what else. Every time I talk to you, I learn something new that you do or that you've done. And that's, I'm really, really happy for you.
Yeah. Well, I think we both continue to inspire each other and to push each other to achieve heights and levels that I think we both know that we're capable of. But it's always nice to have someone who challenges us to reach our fullest potential. It sounds like your father was pretty instrumental in that.
Yeah, he was a hard-nosed guy. So, he was somebody that just worked really hard, blue-collar guy.
What did he do?
He was a butcher here in the Fulton Market
That's right.
district.
Yeah.
And, he's kind of old school guy. He would show up like 2 hours early for work. It was weird. If we didn't fly very often on an airplane, but man, or when we did, we would be at the airport like 5 hours early. That's just how it was. Never be late. Never owe anybody a dime. Work hard. He just was. We had to always be doing something. Where all I wanted to do as a kid was play baseball, which is my first love.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did have a chance to do that, and was really grateful for it. But that's yeah. He's flawed like we all are. And but he definitely had some values that he instilled in me that carry on to this day.
Such as?
Well, hopefully you've seen it, myself, and just high energy, always driving,
Yeah.
striving, always have to be doing something, and that's kind of the pace of that I work at. For example, as relentless is one of the terms that Century 21 is, and it very much resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like it's a big part of my personality, and I think something that I get from my dad. My mom is more of a nurturing. I can never do anything wrong with her. That's but they balance each other out, very, very well, and I think it served me well.
Yeah, sounds like similar to my parents. And I can definitely see, why you've generated the success that you've been able to enjoy over your career, because as you've mentioned before, your career has been so much about service, so much about being out there in the community for so many other people. And it just goes to show you that when you truly are putting yourself out there and being of service to others, it comes back to you immensely. And every time I meet someone out there in the community, like you, we've been out just having lunch out here, like in the summertime, and people walk by and it's like, we can't sit without like 5, 10 people walking by and be like, "Hey, Armando, how you doing? What's it like?" You are known in the neighborhood. You are like the mayor of the West Loop. And anyone out there who's in the Chicagoland area and is interested in getting more information about how we can help you with buying or selling real estate in the Chicagoland area, by all means, we would love to chat with you. And anyone else out there outside of the Chicagoland area, if you need any recommendations, we can always find a referral for you out there. And we've come to that part of the show, Armando, where we talk a little Hollywood here. Are you ready for your movie recommendations?
Oh boy. Yes.
Okay. All right. So first question here, my friend, is what is your favorite movie of all time?
Actually, that's a tough one, of course. I mean, there's so many, but if we're talking about inspiration, which I think is what you're about,
Yeah.
right? Gladiator.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
There's so many scenes there that I just love, and it's not a movie that I've watched as often as, say, like Goodfellas or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is also one of my favorite of all time. And the funny thing is that my youngest son, he like knows so many lines from movies that will ad lib and like play these scenes out. It's hilarious. But that's also one that's up there as well.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get to that because the next question is, what was your favorite movie growing up?
Wow, that's also a very, very good movie. Growing up, maybe I didn't get a chance to watch. Oh, Superman. I love Superman.
Oh, great movie. Christopher Reeve, the original?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I had to think about that because I had to kind of go back to, my childhood. But Superman, and all, with Christopher Reeve they were my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no offense to the current filmmakers who have like been rebooting all of these franchises. I still have to say the original Superman with Christopher Reeve is absolutely hands down the best one.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Favorite romantic comedy?
What was the romantic comedy?
Yes.
Yes, that one. Well,
other than Something Borrowed.
Something Borrowed. Yeah, that one. That's the one that I was looking for.
Yeah, yes.
Absolutely.
Katie Stiga says when Harry Met Sally.
For this part of the show, and I apologize, but
that's all right. Katie, I love your recommendation. When Harry Met Sally is absolutely one of my favorite movies of all time as well. Good suggestion there. How about, what is your favorite comedy?
Well, it'd have to be, I think Ferris Bueller's Day Off. There's a Chicago connection. There's a Cubs connection there. I think that one's pretty clear in my mind.
Yes. And how about favorite actor?
Al Pacino, who I had the pleasure of meeting
really?
A few years back. Yeah, I got a pretty good picture with him. True to form, here we all are dressed up in suits for a big groundbreaking ceremony. I was definitely a little starstruck, but he's like wearing like looking kind of disheveled, oversized jeans, not really dressed up. It's like, yeah, that's Al Pacino. He doesn't need to.
Yeah, he doesn't need
Al
to.
Pacino.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that.
Okay. And favorite actress?
Favorite actress.
Mm-hmm. Come on, Armando. We got to get you watching more
I
movies.
know.
You're too busy doing real estate.
I know. I'm terrible at this. I'm really struggling. Favorite.
Can we call your wife and do a lifeline here?
I should. I mean, I should.
Hey, Bridget, shoot a text message to Armando.
Yeah, I this is, you know what this is exposing? Lack of preparation.
Hey, it's okay. It's all
Yeah,
right. These are improv questions that I wouldn't expect you to know. However, if I were to ask you about what inflation was going to be doing for the real estate market over this next year, I would bet you'd be able to give me a whole explanation on it. And if you want to hear more about it, give Armando a call. Armando, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share before we jump off here?
Yeah, I mean, I think just my parting message is that you know, regardless of your background, regardless of where somebody else or you might think you box you should be in, you know, think outside the box. You know, when I just think about like my story is, you know, somebody like me should not, like, it shouldn't have worked out this way for me. You know, candidly, with so that's what I would say is don't be afraid to strive for higher and better. If there's something that you really want, you know, just get after it. You know, you can do it. This great country allows us, I think, to be able, gives all of us an opportunity, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful for you, Armando, and thanks for continually inspiring me to be the best real estate agent, broker, investor that I can be. And it's great to work with you, man. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Colin. My pleasure.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Look forward to it.
Okay. Yeah, I've got that new buyer we need to talk about.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We'll have coffee with Armando.
Yes, let's do it.
We'll
all right. Thanks,
that.
man. Chat with you soon.
All right. Have a good night.
All right. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your input. And again, if you are in the Chicagoland area and would like any assistance with buying or selling real estate, Armando and I would love to have a chat with you to be able to just answer any of your questions. And as you can see, Armando is just an amazing, generous individual, and always offering his time, his service, as you can tell from what we've talked about tonight. And you can tell that whenever you go out there into the world and just lead from your heart, lead from a place of wanting to serve others, it definitely comes back. And it's been great to work with Armando over the past couple of years. I've learned a ton from him, and I know I'm going to continue to learn more. And as his father said, experience is the best teacher. The more experience that we can have with people who are our best champions, who care about us and want to see us succeed, that's what it's all about. But it is up to you to find those people. And those people don't always just appear in our life. We've got to get out of our little bubble sometimes. And, you know, if the people in your life aren't supporting you, if you don't feel like you're getting what you need in life, it is up to you to make it happen. As Armando said, we have so many opportunities, especially here in this country. And I think a lot of times we take that for granted. And it just comes down to how bad do you want it? And if you really want something bad enough, there are people out there to help you achieve your goals and your dreams. I love to be that kind of person who's out there helping other people pursue their dreams and their goals, which is why I put together my Inspire community, why I wrote Agile Artist. If you haven't gotten Agile Artist yet, what are you waiting for? Just have to say, this book is going to change your life. And if you're interested in getting more information about my Inspire course and the Inspire community in general, shoot me an email at info@colinegglesfield.com. Also with Patreon, I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about Patreon. Patreon is your chance to join us in doing all kinds of fun, cool stuff throughout the month. We do a show called Cooking with Colin, where I like to share some healthy and nutritious foods. And we do our Hour of Empowers, and we do just a bunch of other stuff, including post-show for Coffee with Colin. So after this, right after Coffee with Colin, we jump on and we talk about the show. We talk about what we chatted about to further go into a deeper dive of the conversation that we've had each week. So if you're interested in joining more of the conversation, we jump on Zoom, and it's an amazing, amazing, inspiring group of people. And again, if you are looking to surround yourself with the people that are going to support you, who are going to be your biggest champions and your biggest supporters, this is your opportunity to do just that. All right. Thanks for being here this week. We've got a whole slew of amazing guests coming up on Coffee with Colin. So stay tuned for further episodes, and we'll see you guys all next week. All right. Take care for now.